Scarlet Night is probably the #1 highlight of any sailing with Virgin Voyages, and in today's video I'm going to make sure that you have all the best tips that you'll need in order to have the most incredible time. All that and more, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back to our next adventure with me, Jason, and yes, today's video is going to be so exciting. I'm going to be telling you about all my pro tips to make sure that you have nothing short but an amazing time for Scarlet Night. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, these tips and tricks are going to be broken down into the 3 acts as I see it for Scarlet Night. So Act 1 is going to be what happens on deck 6 and 7 at the beginning, which starts at around 9 p.m. and that's going to carry on until around 10:30 p.m. From 10:30 onwards, we have Act 2, which is the pool party, or if you've been on this channel long enough, you know I like to consider it a pond and not a pool, but I'll call it a pool party just to play nice. And then after that, we have got the after party, which happens at the manor. So now that we're all on the same page, I'm going to begin. And just as a warning, if there are any spoilers, I'll make sure to put a warning there, but to the best of my ability, I'll leave that maybe for the end, if there are any at all. So let's begin with tips for Act 1. The first tip is about your dining reservation times. On Scarlet Night, my general go-to rule is do not have any dining reservations that start later than 7 p.m. This allows you more than enough time to go and eat at your restaurant, enjoy your special dinner because the food is fantastic, and still likely be able to go back to your cabin and freshen up or get ready for Scarlet Night, which will begin at around 9 p.m. If you are going to eat at the test kitchen on that night, then I strongly recommend you make sure your reservation is no later than 6 p.m. This is because the test kitchen is an experience and not just dinner, and you do want to make sure then that you're able, especially if it's your first time, to really take it all in, enjoy, and of course maybe leave some time for you to go and get a pizza afterwards in case you're still hungry. If you know, you know. Tip number 2 is going to be, if you can and you want to have a little bit of something unique because it only happens on Scarlet Night, try and have a dining reservation at the wake, and in particular try and make sure that you have a window seat. I'm not going to say what happens, but it's pretty damn cool and it will come up a bit later, but for now we'll keep it spoiler free. Trust me, it's quite fun. Tip number 3 is to make sure you are at deck 6 or 7 when Scarlet Night kicks off at usually around 9 p.m. Now, please be aware of the following. If you'd like to get the best unobstructed view of what's going on, go to deck 7 and make sure you are by the roundabout staircase, particularly by where the staircase begins to descend. If you'd like to risk getting an obstructed view but potentially an even more intimate view of what's going on, then be on deck 6, again nearby to where the staircase comes to an end, although try and be in front of the stores that are wrapping and facing the end of the staircase. Do not try and go to on the rocks. You will probably not see anything, or it's going to be very uncomfortable when things fill up. Tip number 4 is going to be about where to go in order to see as much as you can of all the different activities and events that are going on, especially for Scarlet Night during Act 1. The first place you may want to be is actually going to be on deck 6, especially if you want to participate in an event that is only taking place once for Scarlet Night, and that is going to be the wedding. Now, if that's something you're interested in, you're going to either want to still stick around on deck 7 overlooking it, although at that point I would recommend that you do consider going down to deck 6 in order to witness or even take part in the wedding. Once you're done at the wedding, what you may want to do is head up to deck 7, and in particular keep your eye out by the doors that open up to the outside of deck 7. One is located quite close to where there's probably a camera being set up for people to take photos at, as well as a wall with a net on it that allows you to write something in it, which I strongly recommend to either take part in or just to take a look and see what others have written. There's going to be a bunch of things going on and performances happening probably nearby, but keep your eye out for any member of the happenings cast because maybe they want to invite you to someone's birthday. However, this is a secret event and I won't say what it's about, and just be aware that you may not be able to get invited to it due to capacity issues. If that is the case, don't feel like you've missed out on something that would have made or break your entire evening. That's just the way it is, and it's something to look forward to going in the future. If that is the case, and unfortunately there's no space for you, then what I recommend you do is to start heading towards the back of the ship, in particular the outside area of the dockhouse. Remember what I said about the wake? Well, this is going to be the second best place to view what may have just happened. So head to the back and check what's happening behind at the very end of the ship in the water. However, you're not going to leave after that. What I then recommend you try and do is actually stick around, trust me, something will eventually take place there, and it's going to be quite fun to be a part of and watch. The next thing you do need to make sure that you go and do is actually going to be something that's listed on the Virgin Voyages app. A fun fact about this is that it actually used to be a secret event that took place in the spa, but due to its popularity and honestly how good it is, it was a crime that not everyone would get to see it on their sailing. So they decided to make it a permanent feature and fixture and put it in the Red Room, and that is going to be the Octopus Garden, which is going to be the story of Scarlet Night. It is going to be listed on your app, and it's going to take place during Act 1. It doesn't matter which of these showings you go and see, and in fact there's usually a way in which it's beneficial to make sure that you go to either the last one, because by that point you would have seen all the other things I've recommended you to do, and with the time that you've got left you can go check out anything that maybe caught your eye that you didn't get a chance to do, like the photo booth if the lines aren't too big, or better yet, if you need to freshen up one more time before heading up to the pond party or pool party on the top deck, then this is your opportunity to do so. And so that ends Act 1. Now we're moving on to Act 2 and my tips for Act 2. So let's begin. The first tip that I have for Act 2 is to make sure that you decide whether or not you're wanting to get into the pond, get wet at all, or to stay dry. If you've decided that you do want to get wet or get into the pond completely, then make sure that if you brought a change of clothes or whatever it is you are wearing for Scarlet Night, you have no issue with that getting wet by any of the pond water. That would also mean that if you are going to change between whatever you are wearing in Act 1 to what you're going to be wearing in Act 2, then I strongly recommend you do take advantage of quickly heading to your cabin to make that outfit change. At the same time, to anyone who is indecisive, for sure make sure that you have something perhaps to keep your phone protected from water. I like to wear a waterproof case that is very easy and inexpensive, which you can purchase on Amazon and other places. You just put your phone in it, seal it, and that way if you do decide to jump in the water, you know your phone's okay and you don't need to rely on anybody to hold your stuff for you. Tip number 2 for Act 2 is going to be the best place to be to view the performance for the pool party or pond party. If you're wanting to stay completely dry, then I strongly recommend that you go to the Aquatic Club bar at the very top by deck 16 on the curving part that overlooks the pond. Alternatively, you could be on either flank, the left or right flank. I'll make sure to put something up so you can see where I'm referring to exactly. If you're wanting to be more close to the action and potentially participate once things start getting a bit more hyped up, then go down to deck 15 and make sure you're on the side of the pool. In particular, again, closer towards the Aquatic Club, but in general, the performers will end up being around the pool so that you should be able to see someone or something going on regardless as to where you're standing. The performance itself is going to kind of be a combination of several things that were taking place during Act 1 and various other performances perhaps throughout the ship. It's a lot of fun and really awesome. Last but not least, for those of you who really want to get a very involved experience and are okay with getting wet, then I strongly recommend that you stand in front of the Aquatic Club bar on deck 15, facing the entrance or walking entrance into the pool. Just remember, you were warned, and I strongly recommend that if you're going to be recording or filming anything, that you make sure whatever you're using is waterproof or protected. Tip number 3 is about where's the worst and best place to get a drink during Act 2 if you're wanting to be by the pool party or pond party. The place you're going to wait the longest and the worst place nearby to get a drink is going to actually be at the Aquatic Club bar on deck 15 right by the pool. The same applies on deck 16 by the Sun Club bar. However, funnily enough, if you go to Gym and Tonic but on deck 16, that's going to be your best bet. Just to be clear, I'll put it on the screen, but that is the one that is on deck 16 facing the X Pond or wellness pool. Before we continue, just a small favor from my side. As always, I would greatly appreciate if you haven't already to please hit the subscribe button. We are making incredible progress actually on that very subject of more and more people who come and watch the videos hitting the subscribe button, and the numbers are showing it. So thank you so much to every single one of you. Of course, if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up if you've liked the video so far, and leave a comment below if any of this was helpful for you or if there was something in particular that you didn't know. I love reading your feedback, and as many of you know, I even love responding as soon as I can. So thank you so much. Back to the video. Now for Act 3, in all honesty, the only advice that I can give you is drink responsibly, have a great time, and also just keep in mind whether or not the next day you have a port. It's one thing to party and have an absolutely awesome time. It's another thing to have a great time and wake up very late and feel awful for potentially an awesome port day. So you're the adults, you know where your limits are. Have an awesome time. I hope this helped. I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.